Well, happy belated spring equinox and early Ostara blessings to everyone. My apologies for having to put a hold on the readings that I had planned to do earlier in the week to usher in the spring equinox and the Ostara Sabbath for this time of the year. In a nutshell, I'm not going to go into a big story about it, but my workload ended up piling up, and when I realized by the time that I had to start getting ready to do the live, I was just not at all focused or concentrated on doing any form of spiritual readings, anything intuitive, because I definitely was not feeling intuitive at that point in time. So I felt it was best just to hold this off until I was caught up and my week had wrapped up and slowed down. So that's where I am right now. So this will be a reading for the months of April, May, and June, which make up the spring season. And then if my schedule and timing and everything works out, I will do a reading for midsummer, or summer solstice, which takes place when the sun moves into Cancer, and that will be on, I believe, June 21st. And that will be in the sign of Cancer. But let's focus right now on the spring equinox. And I forgot there's Beltane. So I will do a small reading, a shorter reading for Beltane around the time of May Day, give or take a day or a few days based on what's going on with me. So I have been absent since things have opened up since the pandemic, and me moving many times. It has been very difficult to put a stable schedule for doing videos. So bear with me. I hope I haven't lost many of you. I'm certain I've lost a few, but for those who are watching and they're new to chiming into what I have to say, thank you for listening and taking some time. So the way that I'm going to do my readings is, don't worry, the tulips will be moving in a moment, but the way that I will be doing my readings is I will be breaking the readings up into the months of April, May, and June. There are only going to be 3 card readings because what I want to do is for the month of April, which Aries rules, and we just went to Aries during the spring equinox this past week of March 20th. I want to focus on the energy that Aries will be holding most of its force in, and that's during the month of April. And then when I do the readings for May, again, these will all be 3 cards because I pull a lot of information from the cards when I do something as simple as 3 cards. I may add a little bit more details if I feel so in doing the readings for this spring season. But with Taurus ruling the month of May, the reading that I do for May will focus on the energy of grounding, earth, stability, security. For April, for Aries, we're looking at creative energy because it's the start of spring. Everything is moving upward and outward. Everything that we have been thinking about, forming emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically starts coming into play during the month of April. So then once we get to June, which is the month of Gemini, ruled by air, of course Aries is fire. Gemini, we're going to focus on partnerships, the way that we communicate, duality, because Gemini is the sign of duality, and that will rule the month of June for Gemini. So that's how I'll break up the reading. So the 3 cards that I pull up for each month, I will bring in some astrology into it. Nothing too heavy because I don't want this video to be too long. But just to get some insight about how each of these 3 months, what's the energy we need to focus on. So this is pretty much how I've been doing my Sabbath readings for all the seasons. And the smaller Sabbats that we have, like Beltane and Lanasad and Samhain, Imbal, all of these in between seasons that we have, Sabbats. So let me go ahead and get into this. So I'm going to set this up in a way where I have the 2 decks I'm going to be working with. I keep going back to these. I alternate between the Wildwood Tarot, which I have not worked with in a while. This was my deck of the season when I first got it about 2 years ago, and it's been worn down quite a bit, but I haven't been feeling the calling to it. And then I have the Witch's Oracle right here, which basically will set the pace for each month. And I'll explain that. I'll pull 1 card to represent the energy and what's the direction we need to start moving towards for each month. So that will be from the Witch's Oracle. And then the Wildwood Tarot will add a bit of a clarification storyline in relation to the card that comes up from the Witch's Oracle. Okay. So as we say goodbye to these beautiful tulips, I bought some more because the other ones passed on about, I don't know, 6 weeks ago. And I got these hydroponic tulips, as you can see here. Very beautiful. So they have their roots. Oh, you can't see here. There we go. So those are the bulbs right there on the bottom, and there's water that just nourishes the roots here. They're not in dirt, but the water's just giving them the growth. Now we're starting to get some yellowing of the leaves, so they're gonna be lasting as long as they can. But I've been keeping my home on the warmer side, so the warmth is what opens up these tulips. These are fully opened. And then when it cools down, some of these have not been closing up all the way, but some do. So when it's cold, that energy contracts and it pulls in. And of course, when it's warm, the energy expands, which is perfect for this month of Aries. Look at all this fiery energy that we have. So I hope for those who are watching this right now that this energy that they're feeling from the tulips is at least making them feel, a little bit more inspired to start moving and getting this energy going for the spring season. Alrighty, so this is a new cloth that I have acquired, and I really like it. We have the 4 pentacles. They're not placed in the north, south, east, west position, but they hold protective of the corners of the north and the south, like the east side here and the west side here. And this is some incense that I have here that a friend of mine who works at a metaphysical shop in Los Angeles prepared a Wheel of the Year series of incense and oils for me. So this is for our spring equinox, which I have burned already. I wish you could smell this because it smells very, very clean, a little bit floral. It has a very fresh scent to it, but also something very, very expansive. So this is Ostara incense, which I've already burned. So I'm going to bring some candles over, not the ones that I had here. These I'm going to burn when I do my live after this episode, but I have the equivalent color-wise of those candles, but they're in the chime form. So I'm going to bring these very cautiously. There you go. There we go. So these are the colors that I've pulled to represent the energy of spring. We can have green as well, but I feel the green isn't a color right now. I feel green comes more when we get into the month of Taurus, for Earth. But for Aries, I have the orange for creativity and for moving that energy outward, our sacral energy, and then we have our solar plexus energy here with yellow. And then the purple, purple is always is a color that is part of our practice for spirituality. And this keeps things more in a deeper realm, not necessarily a dark realm, but the purple just reminds us of our spiritual practice. And so that's why I decided to bring this purple here and infuse it for this spring equinox reading. Alrighty, so as I mentioned, I'm going to do April, May, and June. Our first card here, I will pull from the Witch's Oracle. So I'm going to create space. Bear with me here. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to leave this here. I will move this and the Wildwood Tarot for reference. Okay. I'm going to take a sip of tea here before we get started. Some nice ginger tea. The weather here has been up and down the last few days. We had a beautiful start into spring. We had warm weather. The sun came out. People were outside walking and hiking and being active, going up to the parks and doing activities. So the energy was very strong on during the spring equinox, and then just a few days ago our temperatures dropped and it's now on the cooler side again. So Mother Nature is still working her way through the Pacific Northwest to bring spring to us whenever that will come. So we don't rush Mother Nature. She will present her energy when she is ready. Okay, so I am off to the side. And I want to light these candles, but I want to clear this off. I've already shuffled this, but I want to shuffle it here. Person, sorry for the loud snapping. I got this deck quite a few years ago, and it's still pretty stiff. Okay. Ready? One more. Okay, so again, this deck, the Witch's Oracle, is going to represent the foundation of what we need to work on for the next 3 months. And then here, with the Wildwood Tarot, we're going to get a little bit more descriptive with how we can work with those forces, how we can work with the foundation, with the direction that is guiding us from the Witch's Oracle. Let's see what cards those were. Okay, so I'm going to show you the cards that flipped over. The Shaman and 8 of Vessels. I'm going to lower this camera here a bit so we're not so high above. There we go. Don't get dizzy, everyone. Okay, so those cards that fell out, the Shaman and the 8 of Vessels. So let's remember those 2 cards if they do come up in the reading at all. And knowing me, I'm going to probably forget. Alrighty. Okay, calling in the powers that be. Provide guidance during this reading. as we bring in our 5th day of the spring equinox in Ostara. Our days are getting longer. Days over here are definitely staying lighter. By 7:30 we still have some light here, so it's been beautiful to experience that. So I call in the powers of the north, south, east, west to guide over this reading and provide insight as I do this reading for this Ostara Sabbath and spring equinox. Alrighty, so let's go. I'm going to see how I can best do this. You know what? I'm going to move this very gingerly so I can, it's like a little birthday cake here. Okay. Alrighty, so let's focus on our reading here for the first month of Aries. Again, this is for April. Okay, so our Witch's Oracle is going to pretty much, well, set the pace for us, and how we work with that energy will be. Okay, here. It's April. So instead of doing April, May, June, I want to do it naturally, so the energy that I pull and work with when I do the reading for the month of April gets transferred over into May, instead of doing April, May, June, and then just reading it as the card's already pulled. I'd rather do it as I pull the cards. Okay, so again, this is for April. These glossy cards and the fingerprints. Here we go. So I'm going to pull from the top and the bottom. The top representing our conscious state, and the bottom representing our subconscious. Okay, so here we go. Moon. I'll make sure that you can see this. Move this down a little bit. I have a series of lights that's right overhead, so that's why it's kind of hard to get a glare glossy feel to these cards here. So we have here the moon with the Witch's Oracle, and I will move it up so you can all take a look at the card and just kind of feel the energy. This is beautiful for this time of the year. For April, Aries. But here we're looking at timing, the focus of how we work with the different phases and transitions of course, the moon here, which is full. But also as we're going in from one season into the next, we're now entering into spring, coming out of winter. And I've mentioned in the past that it's so important whenever we are transitioning from one season into the next, even with signs, as we're going from one sign to the next, to ease into that energy mindfully. It's, for some people, like we just got off Pisces, so that's water, and then from water we're going right into a new astrological year, and also another element. We're going from water to fire with Aries, water being Pisces. So water with Pisces is the subconscious, it's the underlying, that's something very deep. That's a lot of work that hopefully some of you have been able to explore. And then what we've learned, what we've gained, what we've released, and maybe what we're still working on subconsciously with that influence of Pisces now manifests in the sign of Aries. Aries of creativity and initiating things, getting things moving. So I feel here, since we just had our new moon recently in the sign of Aries, and as the time of me recording this, we are in the sign of Gemini. Let's still move slowly during this time of the year, okay? It can be a very shocking transition for many, not because of the weather, but also just the energy that's coming out. You know, we're coming out of our cave, we're coming out of our shell, we're moving outward. Things are becoming from internal to external. So for the month of April, let's just take literally the time to ease into things, okay? Aries is known to be fire. It tends to be very quick moving. It can be impatient. And my message for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising, and happy birthday, Aries, is don't be so hard on yourself. Don't feel like you have to get things done very quickly. I have Aries in one of my planet placements, and or actually in 2 placements in my chart. And there is that urgency, and a good example of what I was doing earlier this week, when we were going into the spring equinox and moving into Aries. I had this urgency, I had this rush. I needed to get things done. I felt like a deadline. It felt a little bit more Capricorn-y to me, the work and the energy of Aries, just like pushing through, getting through everything. There was an intensity. So I think I pushed that side of what I was doing that on that day of the spring equinox a bit too much, because I did feel like I burned out the next day or 2 afterwards. So this is a reminder. Again, this is for the month of April. So anything that's you're experiencing right now, if there's a bit of an uprush of things, let's just use this energy. Okay, how are we working with time? Where are we utilizing our energy? How much of it are we putting it into things? Are we putting it more into things that may not need it as much? So let's start allocating where we're going to place this energy. Where does it need to be focused on? And also we have the guidance of the owl. Okay. So we have the owl, the hare for fertility and for movement. But the owl for me is also a message of, think before you take action. We have here the hare that's leaping. So I feel here with the owl, it's almost like think. I know they say look before you leap, but here I'm feeling think before you do action. And in doing so, you put more of a clarity into the things that you do instead of just doing it for the sake of it. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Wow, look at this. We got 3 of stones for creativity, 9 of arrows for dedication. I like this. I like this very much for Aries, for April. So with the 3 of stones here, remember what I was saying here about, being mindful, let's use our thoughts and our knowledge of what we've been experiencing and how we apply it. Here with the 3 of stones, the creativity, the energy of Aries. But what's interesting here is the stones with this deck is relating to Earth, and how our creativity can be such a grounding experience for us. It can influence us, the creativity. It can also ground us once we get everything moving and being aware of what's around us, and just staying connected. Because sometimes we can get lost in the whole action of doing creative things, building and forming, that we can lose a sense of ourselves. And here the beauty of this is just how this entity is just connecting to whatever it is working on. It's rooted. I mean, this is such a beautiful card. and seeing how everything is just melding into whatever is being produced, whatever is being created, becoming one. Usually with the Three of Pentacles or Three of Coins, we're seeing another party coming in. We see like the support of an individual or other individuals who feel and think and work the same way that you do. So it's almost like a support of outside forces to get to where you want to be with your work. But here we're relying entirely on nature. And since I've moved to the Pacific Northwest, this has been such a great influence, and it has been shifting the way that I think about how I work and the direction that I want to put things into. So this is a wonderful card. So with April, Aryan energy, creativity, this is at its best place to work with this energy. Being grounded, whatever you're working on, creating a deck, a book, a song, a play, whatever, throw yourself into it. Feel every aspect. This is such a personal card. And for those who are earth signs, Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn, those signs are the ones that when they do work, it's part of them. It is physically part of them. You know, they are manually doing work, whether it's the thought process of Virgo or Capricorn, the all the effort that's being put into it and working beyond deadlines, and pushing everything as far as it can. And then with Taurus, it's working with what they have, the sources that they have, and taking the time and the energy to create something that feels and works perfectly for them. Those are different forms of creativity with those earth signs. But here, feel like you are definitely connecting with what you want to merge and bring out for others to see. You have to put a lot of pride, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it, but feel fully connected to it. Now here, Nine of Arrows. This is wonderful too. We have dedication. Okay, but what's interesting with this card, okay, I'm going to cover this up here so we could just focus on the image itself. Whenever I've seen this card and whenever I've done readings, I'm looking more at, I'm feeling this is Nine of Arrows, so Nine of Air. I'm seeing more of almost like an irresponsibility, because I'm basing it on the expression of the individual. That's one way that we could see the card. Or there's just like, let's just keep shooting these arrows, and whichever one falls in the direction that it needs to go into, that one arrow in particular, then so will it be. But here, this individual just seems to be to show, shooting these arrows out with no direction. And so here, with this keyword of dedication, I feel this is just a reminder that you need to remain focused and set your eye on one direction. Okay? I mean, look at this energy here with these two cards. Okay. Very different. Okay, there is a stillness, but the movement that we see with the Three of Stones is a solidity. Arrows, as we know, is air, so it's sort of kind of loosely putting things out there and seeing what happens. Keyword of dedication is remaining focused. This is what we're seeing here. We're seeing a grounding. We're seeing a direction of where we're focusing our energy on the most. Okay, so here, if we're feeling that we don't know, like uncertainty or just a lack of focus, we need to bring this into play for the month of April. Okay, let's put things in a direction. It makes no sense to be throwing things out there and whatever happens, happens. For some people, that's how they do it. But if there is something that you are solely focusing on, you need to have a set direction. Okay, remember the energy here. Think before you leap with this moon card for April. Okay, here is abundance. We have the owl here for guidance. We've got the light of the full moon, which is revealing. So we're seeing the transition of what's going on at this time. These three cards of the moon, the three of stones, and dedication show the influence of how remaining true to yourself and remaining focused, we can get to our goals. Stones are also related to outside of grounding foundation, it's also patience. Stones are still. They don't rush into things. So I can also say with the stones influence, stones is maybe pulling Aries energy to be a little bit more, not so all over the place, not so fiery. You can still be fiery and get things done, but again, you need to have a direction. Okay. Alrighty, so some more cards flipped over. Okay. So I got here 10 of happiness, or I'm sorry, 10 of vessels. I'm not going to use this for the May reading for Taurus, but that card was the one that just flipped forward for me. Okay, so we'll see if that comes up. Alrighty. Alright, this is I'm working on my lap right now to get all this cards to stop falling from my lap. Anyhow, here we go for May. May, the month of Taurus, Earth, Venus energy. Okay, so our first card came out. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. Okay, and again, I'm going to do these three cards. Or two cards. Okay, for the top for conscious, and also remember this is subconscious. Maybe this is where we want to put this energy, but subconsciously we could be not still feeling a lack of direction, so we got to focus on that. Okay, and then this will be bottom. This is April. We are now going into the month of May. For Taurus, Earth. The green man, timing, growth. Thank you, energies, for directing this reading in a very interesting manner. So we have the green man. The green man is masculine energy that comes with the earth, and we have the feminine energy of Venus. There's also the green woman who is part of this deck of the Witch's Oracle. So we're seeing growth. We're seeing in the month of May, Taurus, everything blossoming, everything moving in the direction of growth. We also have the snake here. There you go. Surrounding this orb. It's the Orphic egg for protection and nurturing and for growth. We have the doorway here, and the tree of knowledge. Green man protects this tree. It's the oak tree. I'm going to put these two cards here side by side. Okay. What's the relationship that we start seeing here between these two cards? We start seeing, here we go. We start seeing how we carefully make these choices. Trying to get it to focus. Alrighty. Making those choices, moving forward but in a direct manner, and staying dedicated, we start seeing things blossoming. We start seeing things showing the signs of possibilities. But we have to keep moving in that direction. It's very important. Okay, we have to remain on the path. If things are starting to happen, right? We start seeing things shifting, manifesting, they're moving in a direction, but we still don't know what direction it is leading us to, but it's moving forward. We need to go with it, and that's the excitement that comes with energy that's moving. We're feeling things happening, we just don't know where it's going. And so some people, you know, we don't like uncertainty, but if things are moving forward, we need to go with it. Because if we stop, if we question that kind of energy, it's like, let's say we are moving forward and we stop and say, where's this taking us? Then you're killing the momentum. It is very important, and I will emphasize it. We need to move with whatever's happening. If things are really rough at the moment, and I pull this card of exploitation. If things are very challenging at the moment, we got to go with it. Don't fight to change it to make it better. You need to, that it's a situation that came up and we need to work through it. This is a good segue because this now takes us to the Six of Stones. This is a card that keeps popping up. Almost every other reading I've done, the Six of Stones keeps coming up. I'm going to cover this up here. So this is our conscious state. And then let's see what we got here. Here we go. Okay, so the shaman came back to visit us. Remember when I was shuffling earlier? Those cards fell out. The shaman came in. The shaman is also a perfect placement for the month of May for Taurus, because Taurus is ruled by the shaman or the Hierophant. Oh, I'm sorry. This is my mistake, the Magician. I have another deck where the shaman is associated with the Hierophant. So I got my systems mixed up, but this is the Magician. Still very powerful all the same. This is our subconscious. Okay, so here we have a scene of where sources weren't used properly. Okay, we have the hives, and they're in various state of disarray. We have a rake, like it just wasn't used. There's a sense of frustration. There's also a sense of negligence as we see the fires burning in the background. The lack of care that was put in this land. Okay, again, this is stones. This is still relating to earth, but the Six of Stones here is not showing very much fruition. It's showing a lack of care. So I'm relating this energy to this. Okay, so we need to be careful. We cannot be careless in where we set our goals. And just like throwing whatever amount out into the energy, and whatever happens, happens, we need to direct where things are going, or where a situation is going. We have to take responsibility for our actions. And now here, the situation is this is the conscious state for the month of May for Taurus. It's almost like it's too late. or they're looking for an easy way out. It's like, okay, powers that be, help us. Nothing's working here. It's like, to me, there feels like there's a lack of effort. And that's something very un-Taurus-like. When Taurus puts their mind to something and their energy to something, they are fully dedicated. It takes time. So there's a lot of patience that's needed with Taurus when it comes to doing things. From work to creativity to the emotions to thought, there is much time that is put into whatever they are involved in. Okay, so I'm taking this card here for the month of May. We have exploitation, but I'm seeing that we need to be more aware of our actions and due diligence. Follow through, stay dedicated, stay focused on what you're doing so that none of the resources that you need to take care of, your resources being your family, your relationships, your work, doesn't get left behind, doesn't fall apart, doesn't burn into the ether, doesn't affect who you are as an individual. Their clothes are tattered, they're at a loss. And I feel here's just because there was a lack of responsibility of taking care of sources that could have helped them, that could have provided them food and sustenance. And then when we see these resources and we see the beauty that comes from it and how it helps us, we give back to nature. But in this case, this didn't happen in this card. So for the month of May, be responsible of our resources and how we take charge of situations. Responsibility is what I'm feeling very strongly for the month of Taurus. Because without responsibility, we don't get this. So let's keep this going for the month of May, Taurus. Subconsciously, the Magician. Okay. Magician's ruled by Mercury. But here, the Magician has all the tools. We have the stone, we have the wands, or not the stones, we have arrows. We have all four elements right there. It's how we use them. This card here, the Shaman, is giving us the action of what we need to do to avoid a situation like this, or how to remedy a situation like this so that we can move forward. So the skills of the Magician are of the mind, which is of communication, how we mentally interact with people, of the heart, emotions, our intuitive nature, our fire, our drive, what motivates us. Because here the Shaman looks like this being is ready to move forward. And then Earth, we have the stability. We have the groundingness. We have the backdrop. We have the environment to move all of these energies. And we're safe as long as we know how to work with these energies in a rightful manner. We don't want to abuse the use of the intellect. We don't want to take advantage of emotions. We don't want to overuse the energy of fire during this time. That's what makes the Shaman who the Shaman is. That's what makes the Magician who the Magician is. They know how to balance those forces and use it in a very proactive way. The opposite of this energy is, again, the overuse of those those energies. So for the month of April, for Taurus, okay, let's work with this energy of the shaman. How can we save or work with resources that maybe we didn't take care of fully? How can we take responsibility? Okay, this reading here is a time of looking back and seeing what damage may have been done or what more needs to be done to take care of this situation. Any situation that's damaged, again, could be relationships, work, or even yourself. What can you do to change it? Not to cover it up, but to heal from it. Okay, so this is our Aries. April. This is our May, the green man. I wonder what card we're going to get here for Gemini. Okay. All right, so let's see what we're going to get here for Gemini. This will be for the month of June. Okay. What do we have here? That's wonderful. That shaman popped up. It's nice to always have the magician show up in a reading for, you know, clarity in a situation of what really needs to be done, what really needs to be focused. Okay. Where am I feeling here for June, Gemini? What's our guidance? What is our focus for the month of June? Okay. Wildwood Tarot. I was thinking the other day with this deck, the Wildwood Tarot, it would be nice if they came up with a mini version of this deck. Because I've heard some people saying that this deck is, the stock is kind of stiff, which it definitely is. It makes it difficult to shuffle. I'm in an awkward position right now to kind of shuffle properly, but I'm managing through it. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Okay, one more shuffle. I'm going to make this a clean shuffle. There we go. Okay, for the top, conscious, and for our bottom. Actually, let's do this so I have some space here. Okay, so for Gemini, month of June, air sign. Ooh, cone of power. And here we have all four elements. Very similar to the magician. Very similar to the magician. It's like we're moving this energy of Taurus into the month of Gemini. Earth, pentacles, feather, air, candle. For fire, I like the colors here. The earth is black. For discipline. And then water, our cups. Okay, so let's focus a little bit on the cone. Oops, so sorry about that. On the cone of power. And my apologies, I cannot remember the Hebrew interpretation of this right now. Let me put this down here because I'm certain it is stated here. It is not. For those who are watching this, can someone be kind enough to make mention? I know it's not as above, so below, but I think it's almost similar in Hebrew. As above, so below, but it's a different interpretation of that. So the cone of power. The cone of power. Just a quick side story about this. The cone of power, you may some of you from the Gen X generation and earlier know the term the dunce, D-U-N-C-E, dunce cap. The dunce cap was a cap that was put on to shame students who weren't good in school, either with their homework, their courses. It was actually a form of embarrassment. So the dunce cap, this white cap, would be put on the student, and they would be placed in the corner facing the class, and like, yeah, you're not smart, so on and so forth. But little did that dunce cap come into play when it came into magic. We see witches who wear that hat, who wear the pointy hat. And so the cone of power is actually a form of wisdom and knowledge. Quite the opposite of what the dunce cap used to be known of, from the 50s, 60s. Not so much the 60s, but I think probably more in the 50s, maybe more for our parents' generation, who are Gen Xers. But this is actually wisdom, protection, and it's an extension of the shaman. This is a amalgamation of all of these forces, knowing how to use it, but it's all contained in this force. We see people who are in the metaphysical realm, particularly magic, witchcraft, where they wear different forms of hats. It doesn't necessarily have to be a cone. It doesn't have to be the witch's pointy hat. We've seen some fedoras out there, but it's a hat, it's a protection, it's a guard of the mind. It shows the strength, it shows the power that individual has. When you see someone wearing a hat that just is very prominent and very strong, that's an extension of that person. It makes them powerful. Even down to the color. You see red, black, purple, yellow. That's an extension of that person's energy. I almost want to say if someone's wearing a bright yellow hat, it goes to show maybe where their energy is moving from creatively and also intellectually. And the same with blue. If someone's wearing a blue hat, that's emotions, right? It's also instinct, intuitiveness. So I can transfer those colors when it comes to someone wearing a particular hat or a cone of power. Is another way we could probably start describing hats, their cone of powers. The colors, how they represent that individual at an external level. Okay, so that's energy, that's force. It's how we're utilizing this. And again, it's an extension of the shaman for this reading. Okay, so again, this is for June. So let's pull these other cards over. This is our conscious state. 8 of Bows, the hearth fire. Okay, so I'm going to move this down here. Well, let's see here. 8 of Stones. We have quite a bit of stones here for this reading. So I'm sensing a lot of emphasis on security and foundation during this time of the season. So 8 of Bows. Bows for the wildwood is fire. So we have here the hearth fire. I've been working with decks where I don't see any keywords. I appreciate the keywords with these decks, but now it's nice to kind of cover this up and just feel the energy directly without that influence of the words. Hearth fire. 8 of Wands. Different interpretation from what we know with the RWS, but the 8 of Bows. We see here a common, let me start this over, a camaraderie. Those who have stuck together, people who have the similar energy. We even see different generations here. We see elders, we see young, we see people of different ages here. gathering together, drawing that, let's say here's this cone of power, even though no one's, well, we have someone who is wearing a hat here, Viking, but it's still, it's that extension of that energy. We have the individual here who's holding, looks like a staff of sorts, almost like a hermit. And then we have the cup. We have all these different elements. Actually, you know what? This is probably more of a bow, because this is what we're working with here. But the bow also is the director. Okay, we have the bow and the arrow, right? So the bow is setting the place and the arrow is where it's going. Okay. So the bow is that foundation that's going to set how that arrow is going to be placed. You know, if you move the bow down, it's going to move more downward. If you move the bow more upward, it's going to go in a different direction. These here, for the month of Gemini in June, these are skilled individuals. These are people who've worked together in various ways, but they all share the commonality of how to work with these tools. And so for June, Gemini, we're looking at, again, this energy and how we are communicating. How are we interacting with people? We need to focus on that energy quite a bit for June. And I feel it's like a group effort that I think by getting together, being more in a community situation, communicating with others, you get things done. But we're doing it more at an intellectual level. Okay, everyone shares similar interests. Now they're exchanging feelings, they're exchanging thoughts, they're sharing emotions. And they're in a place where it's grounding, it feels secure, it feels safe. The hearth fire is that energy that is of inspiration. And you maintain this. They're gathering around this fire to keep it going with their own energy, with their own belief, with their own inspiration. So that's what I'm feeling for June. Community, get together with like-minded people. It's time to, you know, stop. We have the social distancing. I understand that, but I think we need to start moving closer together. Very much so. So we have a unity. We can start building a unity together at a global level. That's going to take quite some time. Here we have the subconscious. We have the 8 of stones. We have skill. And I love this hand. When I first saw this card, my eye went directly to that hand. And it's almost like the person was holding themselves up, and the heat and the force of this energy got imprinted, and the light from the candle is showing it. It's showing the hard work. It shows the force of this individual. So the 8 of stones, we've got 2 8s here too for the month of June for Gemini. We have skill. Okay, this is what I was saying here earlier, the shaman as well. This is someone who knows, they understand the tools, they understand the environment that they're working in, and they're harnessing, they're working with what's around them. But here, after we have this gathering, it's good to come to yourself. Put yourself in a place where you can really think and learn and understand from this gathering, through community, through group effort. What have you gained from this? Okay, for Gemini, what have you gained? What have you learned? What can be an extension of what you already know? What can you put out there that can show people a different perspective? A certain a certain way of doing things. I'm feeling here for June with this energy here of the Cone of Power and these two cards. June is a month of extending what we know already. Okay. Putting our knowledge and putting it up to another level. And the way that's coming is by interacting with people. But people, just not anyone. Don't go up running on the street and go, hey, I want you to be part of my community. You across the street, you're going to be part of my community. You have to network. You have to find these people. And it could be people already in your circle. Okay, it could be people that you know already, but I think it's something that if it's someone that you've been wanting to work with or connect with, I think June, I feel June is the month to make that happen, especially for the month of Gemini. Okay, Gemini's duality, so we're looking again at partnerships that come through communication. And I'm feeling June is also going to be a month of work. It's going to be still a continuation of this Taurus energy in May, but you know, we have to do some penance for damage or anything that may have not been taken care of properly. We have to take a few steps and take again responsibility and move forward. And once we do that work, we do diligence, and we understand what we can through the shaman energy, what we need to do to repair and take care of anything that was missing or that needs to be maintained in May, we apply it into the month of June. Okay, which we have here, the inspiration of the fire. Fire is fueled by air communication, talking, exchanging ideas. You know, when you get into a conversation with someone and it feels right and everything's moving smoothly, that's fire. That's connection that's happening, you know, and you feel that spark. It's like, hey, you know, I really like the way you think. I really like the way this conversation's going. And the same when it comes to a book. You know, you read a book and you just cannot put it down because it has you engrossed. It has your attention because there's something that's being written. The message that's being conveyed by the author, by the creator, is connecting with you. When you're an artist and you're throwing your work out there, whether it's book, theater, music, painting, whatever, you are reaching out to people. May not be everyone. Not everyone's going to feel, think, and see the same that you do, but you are reaching a group of people. It could be small, and sometimes that's all you need. It can be bigger. And when it's bigger, then it goes into various stages of growth. But that's here at the subconscious level with the Eight of Stone. Skill. Let's go back and see what we've learned so far. What has been gained through community? What have we learned in our groups? And what can be changed? What can be expanded on? Because I'm hoping many of you who are watching this and have watched YouTube channels, conversations, so on and so forth, there has to be a point where there's growth. You know, we don't want to see the same things going over and over again. Social media, the same thing. We don't want to see the same things being repeated. Products, you know, derivatives of products. We want to see changes. We want to see expansion. And that's where the fire and the air element come into play. Here, the gathering of souls, celebrating where things have been and where they can take it to next. And then splitting apart individually and going into your cave, going into your studio, going to your office. And what can you do that's different? Okay. So again, with the Cone of Power for June, manifest that energy and understand how to work with all of these forces. They're out there. If you take a minute and you look around your room or whatever environment that you're in, you're going to see all four elements around you. You're going to find elements of foundation, of feelings, of thought, of movement, of fire, and of earth. It's all there. So understand and learn how you can work with those to expand upon things. And because that's what spring is. Spring is of growth, expansion. And this is the time to do it. So there you have it. Your readings for April, for Aries. Emphasis on being grounded and dedicated with our creativity. But not to be so, lackadaisical about it at a subconscious level. Let's start putting direction into what we are working so hard towards. Be honest with yourself. May, Taurus, the green man, growth. Pretty self-explanatory. But let's focus on what we haven't been working with properly. A lack of understanding of our resources, not paying attention. This can even go down to the gardens, because it is springtime. If you feel like your garden hasn't been prospering, go back and see what's going on. For example, the garden. And the shaman, be creative with the mind. Listen to your instincts. Your instincts from there will, from water, the instincts, it'll fuel you into fire, that creativity. But remain steady throughout doing this. And of course, the cone of power, energy, knowledge, an extension of the shaman here. Okay, and again, for those who are watching, can someone who knows the meaning of these four symbols for Hebrew, or they're not symbols but words, please put them in the comments for me, because I believe it's the equivalent to as above, so below. I could be wrong, and I'm probably incorrect in saying that, but that's what I'm feeling. And then of course here, the community gathering together with like-minded, experienced individuals, sharing thoughts. The experienced group, but now where to go with that energy. Break off and expand on your experience. Alrighty. Hope everyone's having a wonderful spring equinox. I'll start to Ostara week. We have Beltane coming up on May 1st. And as I mentioned, I will try and do a video to welcome in that Sabbath. And then we have in June, we have our midsummer, summer solstice. Longest day of the year, and then we go down the cycle of where our days slowly start getting shorter, and that won't become apparent until we get to Lunisod around August, and then that's when we start seeing the signs that our days are getting shorter. But for now, let's just embrace our longer days, and as days get warmer, take advantage of all this energy that's springing and being fiery and getting more outwardly and interacting with people. So I will see you all soon. I'm going to share you one more view of these beautiful flowers. That's such a bad shot, but anyhow, there we go. Beautiful fiery tulips to welcome in the month of Aries and spring. I am going to have another video. I'm going to be doing a live right after this. So bear with me again, everyone, as I place videos out as much as I can. So enjoy this video and any questions you have. And again, if someone can tell me the cone of power, the meaning of the Hebrew words that are on this card, leave them in the comments for me. I will see you soon, everyone. I am available for readings as well. You can reach me through my website. Any questions that you have, of course, feel free to leave them in the comments. All the information is there. And that's it. You have a wonderful week, and I will be reconnecting with you sooner than later. Thanks again for watching.